We're going to do one last training piece. Now, here's the danger of this. It's the last training piece. You didn't sign up to be a professional. You signed up to be an independent realtor who could do what they want and when they want and make a bucket load of money. And suddenly you're in this environment, you find there's professionals here. You find there's people who actually give account for the fact that they got a beautiful hairdo and a nice badge, but they haven't sold anything for 7 months. It's a different environment. The fact that your badge says 0 sales Betty is burning a hole in your chest. That's the whole idea, right? I think actually we're going to do non-KPI 4 club. So like when you've had 0 sales, it will have like a big fat 0 like there, and you have to wear the badge every... I'm teasing. But the point is, are we or are we not here to make money? Yes. The 2 primary focuses we have is customer care and money. So if you show attitude, Rick will, I'm quite sure, come along and sit you down and go, this is not the KW culture. You're probably not comfortable here. Let me call Century 21, you'll fit in great. That was a joke, relax, right? So we know that we care about people. The other piece we hide, don't we, Jessica? We've done it for years in our real estate business. We hide how much we're not making. The minute we do make, but the beauty of this is the accountability and the performance and the reward and the privilege. You look at it and go, damn it, I'm just not doing it. What am I doing wrong? What can I do better? That's the environment that we want to create. Correct? Let's not be teenagers. Perfect. So, did anybody get that joke? Has anybody ever had a teenager? Don't they know a lot? And how much do they know? Everything. Welcome to the real estate industry. So we're now going to go through a training, because I just preempted that because I sensed that there was some sleepiness in the room. You're all thinking about your lunch and your hot dogs rather than thinking about getting better as a realtor. So I just brought you back on point so we can talk about why are we losing 14% of our escrows? So let's do it. How to avoid unnecessary cancellations. Here we go. Are we good with mics, bud? We're ready to go? Yeah? All right, how to avoid unnecessary cancellations on escrows. First of all, set the right expectations. Okay? I want you to give buyers the Warburton Properties training manual doc. It's right over here on the displays, and it's in our training manual, and it's called Buyer Information. I just got my offer accepted. What's next? It's in your buyer package. You now know that, right? Why do you give that? Because you're setting the right expectations. Here are the 7 or 8 phases of an escrow. I gave it to you in your buyer pack. So when they call you on night 3 and say, I just got a big fat wad of papers through the mail, I don't know what it is. You know what happens right there? The husband wanted the house because there's a place for his TV and his Doberman. The wife didn't want the house because her kids go to a school in another district and she's more connected to the kids than the husband is. She's been waiting for something to go wrong to get upset with her husband so that he will cancel the escrow. Now a wad of papers has come in. The realtor hasn't called and said a wad of papers is coming in. The realtor never said a wad of papers was going to come in. So she goes up to him and says, I told you, honey, they're just in it for the money. I just saw a house around the corner that my girlfriend has listed. Let's go have a look at it. And the day later they call you and say, I'm canceling. Where was the problem? No preemption, no preparation, no communication. So what you've done here right at the beginning, you've introduced them to the concept of this is a process and it's a process we're going to go through. This isn't some academia that I did 35 years ago. This is what I do as my lifestyle. Are you with me? I'm going to say it over and over again, right, Casey? This is what I do, right? Not what I think about doing, not what I'm writing down about what I did 25 years ago. It's what I do. So first of all, set the right expectation. Give the buyers that document so they know and they're preempted. Always talk about the next step before it happens. I'm going to give you a crazy little example of that. This is very silly. Always create the next step before it happens. Honey, I'd love to go out to dinner with you this weekend on Saturday night. Sunday's okay if that's preferable to you. What did I just do? Preempted an objection. I'd love to take you out to dinner on Saturday night. Sunday would be better if that's fine with you, but I just want to be with you. Aww. And you know, I was thinking about what sort of restaurant. Don't make the mistake. What's the mistake? Asking her where she wants to eat. Don't do that. I know you love Italian, and I love sushi, and you go into shock whenever you eat sushi. I know you like sushi. And John, you know, he loves pizza, you know, and I like Mexican. Anyways, I know there's like a bunch of choices for us. So I was thinking maybe we could try sushi. She hates. I know, you know, we have really special dates and we do Italian, but how about we make all of us happy and we go to a steakhouse together? I just want to be with you and Jonathan. 99% of the time, she's going to say what? However, if I say to her, let's go out to dinner on Saturday, and I don't prepare the next step, and Saturday morning comes around, and I've been showing, and I'm tired, and I come home a little irritable, and I go, I'm tired. She says, remember you're taking me out to dinner? Good. I want to eat sushi. I don't want to eat sushi, baby. I want to eat Italian. I don't feel like Italian tonight. And plus, the person I show property to is Italian. So immediately we're what? We're in an irreparable dichotomy, right? So what's my point? Always prepare the next step. When you're in escrow, there's multiple restaurants you're going to go through, and some of them they like and some of them they don't. So prepare the next step. I've shown you how to do that already. Always talk about the next step before it happens. This shows that you're informed, that you're in control of the process. It involves shocks and defensive conversations, right? So now when the package arrives, you let them know the minute their offer is accepted, you're going to get a bunch of papers and you're going to break out in a sweat when you get them. I literally say this to people. As soon as you start to sweat, call me. Because I can pretty much guarantee you 2,500 deals in, there's an answer. Okay? And I look forward to having a cup of coffee with you and going over those papers. I've completely preempted that it's coming because I've let them know that it's coming, and I'm in control of the fact that it is coming. You all got me? Number one, set the right expectations. Number two, understand this is a biggie that is not from the old school world that Rick and I grew up in. Number two, understand your role as an agent, not a principal. How many deals did we do, Rick, where the agent would say, well, in my deals, I never do this. Well, in my sales, I never do this. Well, in my purchases, I never do this. We heard it all the time because that's the way we were taught 40 years ago. But that's not the way Amazon works. It's not the way Zillow works. It's not the way the modern world works. It only works with the poor relatives of that old school realtor who are obliged to use that sucker. The way it works now is to understand that you are a servant, a customer servant, not a customer dominant, right? In case you haven't noticed, we don't dress up in black vinyl and carry whips when we meet our clients.
Well, the good agents.
We're not supposed to be dominant. We're supposed to be a servant, right? So the whole objective is you're not taking immovable positions. Well, all I know is that house with that kind of thing going wrong with it, I wouldn't buy it. You need to write up a request for repair right now and ask them for $20,000. I would never buy that house. Wait a minute. You the buyer? I thought you were the servant. And she loves that house, and she knows it needs to be painted, but her brother's a painter, and she knows her child is being bullied and needs to be in that school because she loves her child, and you're talking her out of that house when you don't have another one to sell to her because you wouldn't buy it. Well, you don't have her child. Who are you to tell her not to buy the house? We're not there to dominate people. We're there to serve people. So whatever issue comes up, your job is to serve their best interest, and their best interest is not your best interest. Understanding your role as an agent, not a principal. Honesty and integrity. Disclose, disclose, disclose. That does not mean, like I've seen people do, can you believe the dust in this house? I wouldn't have my house this dusty. This is, what's it called, a Stepford wife. Yeah. I wouldn't have it that dusty. And even when I bake my cakes, I clean up the counters afterwards. And my doggy, I take the doggy to the groomer every week. And I would never have dust. I'm going, oh, it's just awful. Let's go to another house. And there's realtors who do that, who pontificate. So it's dusty. Her child is being bullied. Does she give a hoot the house is dusty? And clearly there is, because most listings aren't clean. But all you do is go, yeah, I agree. This really seems to hit a lot of the spots for you with your family and school. I just want you to know, I love the idea of your child being safe. And I have a fabulous house cleaner, and I'm going to pay for that when we close. Now, where would you like to go on an offer on this house? Done. Your job is honesty and integrity. Your job is disclose, disclose. Your job is reasonable investigation. Are there any licensed contractors in this room? Then don't comment like you're a contractor. All you're responsible to do is comment in your Avid on something that is visibly clearly wrong to you. A big brown spot in the middle of the living room ceiling would be a good one. It is not your job to go in, as some agents do, and roll up the carpet to see if there's a crack. Right? It is not your job to go out the garage door. I've seen realtors doing this. No, they're in the garage, checking the infrared. I've seen agents do this. They go up outside the house where the water pipe is, and they go. I don't know about this one. Tapping the water pressure meter to see if it's the right water pressure. It's not your job, right? Your job is, if you see something clearly, visibly wrong, to disclose it. Then you're going to go back to 30,000 feet with me. So you're finished with this whole issue of the physical inspection. You've gone over the report with them. You've looked at the pictures together. You've looked at the reds. You've looked at the greens. And you come up with $2,000. Most real estate agents will then say, we need to ask them for $2,500. We need to ask them for $3,000. The RPA clearly states every home in California is sold as is. The RPA clearly states the seller has no obligation to respond to a request for repair. It is not a factor in a contingency, and if you do not remove your contingency without the seller responding to the request for repair, you have no defense. Period. Does that mean I'm not going to try and help my buyer get repairs if needs be? For sure I am. Does it mean I'm not going to represent my buyer and try and get them to do something? No. But am I going to misrepresent my buyer and let them know that I'm their savior and I'm going to get everything fixed and they deserve it? You just broke the law. Wait, you just broke the law. How's that, Andrew? Because if that house fit her child's needs that's being bullied, and it's $500,000, and the market's going up, and you talked her out of it from your unlicensed opinion what to do, because you only have a real estate license. You gave her that opinion, she lost that house, the market's going up so much that the next one is $550,000, she could potentially file a suit against you for that $50,000 loss. Because you interfered, you counseled her as an attorney, not as a real estate agent. You talked her into not buying that house. She wanted that house. She believed you, and she shouldn't have, because it wasn't your job in the first place. So when you have a physical inspection, you go through the physical inspection. Yes, disclose something that's visibly wrong. You come up with a couple of $1,000. Your job is to contextualize what needs to be done. And the way you contextualize it is very simple. It looks like it's going to be $2,000 or $3,000. Let's have my handyman come over and get an estimate of what it is. A couple of days later, you got the handyman done. It's $2,000, $3,000. So how do you feel about this? We can approach the seller for some of it. Here we go with preempting. Listen to me. We can approach the seller with $3,000. Probably won't get all $3,000. Probably get $1,000 or so. What did I just do? Preempt. Did I create a false impression? No, because I have no legal grounds for it, because the contract says they don't have to pay them anything, right? And then we end up with a number, and I go, how long is your child going to be in this school? How old is your child? How old is the youngest? 7, right? Yeah, 4. How old is your child going to be in that school? 14 years. So for 14 years, it's $1,000. Do you think it's worth, $70 a year? Done. But no, we as realtors think we have to go in and show how strong we are and how powerful we are. It's not your job. Sorry, Anne, I forgot you raised your hand earlier.
Don't leave them on the inspection. Don't go in and give them a number. They interject your thoughts. I don't try to interject my thoughts on what the repair should be. I let them lead that so that they come back and say, oh, geez, this happened. And be like, you're the one who came up with that number, not me.
So to Patrick's point, we make mountains out of molehills, or we create ourselves as a specialist and we're not. You're on dangerous legal ground, and you're on dangerous moral ground.
So, Angie, I always preempt that conversation by quoting the contract that the seller is under no obligation to do anything. However, what we like to focus on is safety,
Perfect.
major issues, and then there's always going to be a
Perfect.
minor issue.
Perfect. 100% perfect. We're actually putting in the buyer packet document that has an excerpt from the RPA with a red line around it and an excerpt from the RR with a red line around it, so you can actually show that to your client and preempt it. It's being done right now. So understand your role as an agent, facilitate the sale that your clients want. You present information, the buyer makes decisions. Did everybody hear that? You present information, the buyer makes decisions. By the way, I'm going to tell you something. As you start to play with your phones and walk out of the room, you want to be on KPI 4. I pretty much guarantee you that what you're going to hear over the next 20 minutes or not hear because you leave is going to cost you your next deal. I see it every month with every agent. Why anybody would not sit glued to me right now because I'm right now holding the pen to the checkbook that feeds your family. Now, if you've closed 2,500 deals, come teach me. Here's the money. We're talking about the money right now. Manage appraisals appropriately. If you're the listing agent, meet the appraiser on time. Never, ever, ever meet an appraiser late. Dear Lord. Provide supporting comps politely, but ask for permission first. By law, you're not allowed to influence the appraiser. It's changed since the Mortgage Reform Act of 2015. However, I will humbly go up and I'll meet the appraiser. Let's say Jason's the appraiser. Hey, Jason, I'm Andy. We met before an appraisal, haven't we? I'll almost always say that. Try and create some sort of, how far have you driven? How many do you have today? Great. Look, I'm going to make it as easy as possible for you. The doors are open, the back door. Anything you need from me? No. Perfect. You probably don't need this. I ran 2 or 3 comps that seem pretty good, that could help. Would you like them, or have you got them already? You see that? Apologetic, humble. Every single time they'll take those comps. You're damn lucky I'm your realtor. See the license plate on my car? Damnlucky.com. Not a good idea. So, providing supporting comps politely, ask for permission first. Prepare the client, buyer, or seller for the possibilities of a high-low appraisal. What I just do, I preempted. Preempting is an integral part of sophisticated human relationship. It's an integral part of a husband-wife relationship. It's an integral part of father-son relationship. It's that preempting a scenario that may be uncomfortable, because when people hit uncomfortable, they panic because they're not sophisticated. Even sophisticated people aren't sophisticated. Most people, when a problem comes up, they'll fall back on a higher power or an evasive position. So you have to prepare people for the shelf. Let them know the shelf is there and you're there to walk them through it. So prepare the client that, hey, it's very possible when we're writing this offer that an appraisal could come in high, it could come in low. You know, they're all over the map these days. You know, we're not really sure. All I know is that we're going to do our very best. And what's important is this, Patrick. We wrote the offer at $550. The important thing is what this house is worth to you and the memories you're going to create the next few years. But let me take care of the logistical part, but I know what's important to you. What did I just say to him? Did you hear that? I care, I'm listening, right? Now I've created a landing pad on which I can discuss with them should the appraisal come in low. But we don't do that. We don't mention appraisal because we're scared stiff we're going to lose that one client we've got over the last 14 months from our database because their barista wanted to buy a house. So we're terrified if we tell them the truth that they're going to go away. Whereas here, agents, sometimes a relieved one falls out of escrow because they've got so many going on, they want to go on to the next one. You get my point, right? Okay. Number one, set the right expectations. Number two, understand your role as an agent. Number three, manage appraisals appropriately. How many of you in this room can raise your hand right now and say, Andrew, I didn't need to hear that. I do all of that all the time. Exactly. That's why we're here. That's why we collaborate. Manage physical inspections appropriately. Again, share the Warburton property buyer pack document. That's the same document as the one above. And there's another one showing the RR and the RPA as is clause. So that's the document I just shared with you. Your buyer pack is going to have that in there, and it will show the request for repair document, and it will show the as is clause on page 14, it's paragraph 14 of the RPA. Create the right expectation. Explain the importance and detail of the disclosure process. So this is like a juxtaposition, or it's a complementary position actually. So on the one hand, in a real estate transaction, you've got repairs that need to be made in a request for repair. On the other hand, in the transaction, you have what? The disclosure process. So if Don knows there's something wrong, he's going to get the statutory disclosure, he's going to get the TDS, he's going to have to lie multiple times, he's going to have to create a precedent of lying that in discovery I can break down and I can see him in superior court. So he understands that he needs to disclose. And if his agent doesn't know they need to disclose, they're going to know from me before the deal is done. So they must disclose. So somebody died in the property. There's drugs in the property. They have cats in the property. How many cats in the property? They have dogs in the property. How many dogs in the property? Is there a neighbor that practices Def Leppard every Saturday night at 9 o'clock when your kids are going to bed in their garage with an open door with a keg in the driveway? They want to know everything. The guy up the street repairs 4 16-wheeler trucks every weekend. They all pull up, and all night long he's banging away with flashlights. A drone down on the... You got to disclose it so that you let them know disclosure is a part of the deal. However, aside from the disclosure, we're going to do discovery. We're going to do a physical inspection. The seller doesn't have to repair anything, but just know if there's something critically wrong with the house, you have every right to walk away. Let's hope that doesn't happen, because most of the time physical inspections give you a honey-do list. Did you hear what I just said? How many of you could say that back to me? $100%. 100%.
Leverage that to your deal.
Explain lender required repairs. What's a lender required repair? What's a lender required repair?
Heater struts, water heater struts.
Boom, lender required repair. Say it quickly, one sentence.
The stairway,
The distance between the balusters. Lender required, go, lender required repair. Peeling paint, VA, peeling paint, lender required repair. You know, your broker.
Broken windows.
What must every bedroom have? A window that operates. It cannot have a screen on the outside that locks the window. What's another lender required? Must have flooring. What's an FHA lender required repair? Must have a stove. Give me another lender required repair. Heater must work because they want people freezing to death. So you let your buyer know that you know this stuff and say, look, We might get some lender-required repairs. If we do, the seller's going to be obliged either to fall out of escrow and they can't sell it to anybody or fix it for us. Just want you to know I'm on your side. Would any of you hire me as your realtor? Why? That's right.
I explain the lender required repairs just by I just tell people, there's gonna be an appraisal. If the appraiser comes back with any required repairs, those are gonna have to be done before we can close on the house. Doesn't matter what the appraiser puts up. Sometimes they miss it. Sometimes they miss a heater. Sometimes they miss whatever.
I've always used that lender required repair as a defensive position for the buyer because they know, I look at people and I go this and like, who's got the greatest interest in this property? I've done this 1,000 times, by the way. Well, at least 500. Who's got the greatest interest in this property, Bob? Who's got the most money in this property? Who's got the most interest in this property? How do they protect their money? The appraiser has to say, hey, what it's worth. What else does the appraiser have to do? Let them know if the bank's buying something that they're going to spend more money on fixing than they should. So I want you to know that your lender is looking out for themselves. And you're the beneficiary of that. Did you just see how I moved that? Did you get that? You sure? You're looking at me with blank faces. Go, I want it. Right, we're 5 minutes out from close. Bear with me. Stress the word request for repair. It is not called demand for repair. Stress that you'll do your best for the client. Discuss the relative value of the home over time versus the immediate cost of repairs. We've covered that. Discuss the difference between safety red items and the preferred green items. Green items on the physical inspection are preferred repairs. Red items are highly recommended. The seller still does not have to do them. Did you know that? The seller doesn't even have to make safety required repairs. So don't make false promises. You're breaking the law. Right, next, avoid long escrows. And we're almost at the end here. Catch this with me. It will save your next escrow. Encourage 30-day escrows whenever possible, maximum 45 days. Why? Because there are so many items outside your control. Crystal, the girl gets pregnant. It's been in escrow. How long? 3 months. So she's had the baby. Guess where they live? With her mom and dad. Guess where she wants to go? With her mom and dad. Cancellation. These are things that, again, it's that whole anticipation. It's driving through. I pretty much guarantee you, anytime an agent comes to me and says something's been in escrow 45 days or more, they've got a 50% chance of it losing. That means you have to know what you're doing, use our escrow checklist, drive that escrow through, get the escrow closed. Otherwise, the client doesn't get the benefit of the home ownership, and you've just been a charity. So I'm going to run really fast. No more interjections if you don't mind. So encourage 30-day escrows whenever possible, 45 days at the max. Many items are outside your control. Here are some of the items that I've encountered through the years when I've had long escrows. Rising rates. Oh, you didn't lock the rate. Payment's too high and now can't afford it anymore. How many people in this room have experienced that? Show me a show of hands. If your nurture was quicker, the rates would have been lower and you'd be collecting a check. Instead, you're telling me it's a dead Zillow lead. Rising or sinking prices. Health of the buyers and sellers. I've had buyers get sick in escrow. I had a buyer die in escrow. I had a buyer in a car accident in escrow. First car accident I had in escrow, I swore to myself I'd never do an escrow in more than 30 days. By the way, I also, every time I'm in escrow, I encourage my buyers not to go on long journeys. Political issues. Do you know how upset people in America get about politics? Does anybody know anybody who's upset about politics in this room? Can I see a show of hands? Millions of Americans are going to go into la-la land over the next 3 weeks over issues they cannot control and cannot change. They're going to fill up Facebook with a whole bunch of puke, and you're in escrow with them. And the more that goes, the more upset you get what you project. You get what you project. You project that, you're going to get that. Oh, America's so bad right now, I don't want to buy a house anymore. I want to buy a house in Katchwang-de-Kyung-do. I don't want to buy a house in America. You know what's going to happen? The Chinese are going to take over, they take all our agriculture, we're not going to have any food anymore, the children are all going to die, the Chinese are going to come in and invade, and they're going to walk in, they own all of our debt, and they own all of our homes, and we're all going to be speaking Mandarin, and there's no way in hell I ever want my grandkids to live in this place anymore, and I don't want to invest in my grandkids because they're all going to die and be killed and be... And that's going around your head and go, oh, welcome, I'd love to sell you a house in America. Political issues fester in people's minds. The longer your escrow, the more you fester, the more they fester, and the greater likelihood is they're not going to buy the house. Financial markets, up and down. Some people live by the Dow. Dow drops 500 points. What are you in escrow? Oh, America's it's going to be 1,000 before now. I tell you, you see the people who live on the streets now. There's going to be 400,000 people living on the bridge going to Los Angeles in 3 years. And the whole thing because the Dow dropped 500 points. Financial markets, employment changes happens all the time. The guy suddenly gets switched, Patrick, from full salary to salary plus bonuses. They reduced his salary, they raised his bonuses. He doesn't qualify anymore. You know why? Because you didn't close the escrow in time. You know why? Because you're part-time. You didn't get the job done. It's on you, not them. Canceled escrow. Employment changes. Pregnancy. I could go on and on all day long. Next. So, don't do long escrows, do shorter escrows.
One more thing that's been coming up recently is where is their money to close because people are holding cash and then we just had it come up again the other day and they thought they could go put the large deposit in right before closing and of course that's been a problem.
So those issues, those financial issues, you need to find that out day one. Right? Where's the money coming from and so on. Stay with me, I'm almost done. Manage the loan process. Here we go. 1, recommend preferred lenders with whom you have experience of their competence, fairness, and integrity. I will promise you that if the lender is not your lender, you have got less than 50% chance of that deal closing. So control that loan up front. Listen to me. If you don't have the skills, come here and learn them. If you don't have the skills, come here and learn them. And the very worst case scenario, if you're not controlling that loan, the very first call you need to make when you've submitted that offer is to their lender. You need to know the lender. You need to know their birthday, the name of their wife, the name of their children. You need to know how long they've done it. You need to let them know that you're there for them. You need to have a relationship with that lender. You need to see a copy of the LE. You need to see a copy of the payment. You need to share that payment with your buyer. You need to walk your buyer through it because the chance is the LO didn't and they're going to back out of escrow because they'll say they didn't understand the payment. And there's nothing you can do. Manage the loan process. Make sure that your buyer understands the loan in advance. Keep constant stepping stone communication with your buyer. To conclude, here we go. To avoid cancellation of escrows, check your escrows twice a week minimum. Twice a week minimum. Communicate with your client, your lender, your escrow officer, and the other agent. And use the WP Manual Doc Get Started Escrow Process Checklist. This piece of being on top of your escrows. Again, people create vortexes. People create whirlpools in their mind, right? It starts with a little spin at the top. And then they call you and they can't reach you and the spin does this. They call you again, they can't reach you and the spin does this. They call a friend who gives them bad advice, the spin does this. They call the friend who's in his first month of law school, but they say he's an attorney and he just read a book that somebody passed him in a really bad class, and it gets even bigger and bigger and bigger, and then they call and they say, we want to cancel. So if you're communicating regularly at top of funnel, then the minute something is uncomfortable, you've prepared the ledge, the knowledge of the ledge, you stand on there with them and you get it resolved. Did any of you, as you listen to me right now, think of escrows that you could have saved that you lost because of what I just... Any of you? Just one? Everybody else, you've done all of that before? Yeah. Okay. Oh, in escrow, dude? And I know it's a very strong point of yours. Any questions for me? We're done. Thank you.